So today, we have such a great show. We're doing a Spanish food and wine pairing from the region of Aragon, but more specifically from the small town of Cariñena, which happens to be one of the best wine regions in Spain. Anyways, I was lucky enough to go to Cariñena and do some wine tasting. I was over at Bodega's Grandes Vinos, got to try out a couple different wines, especially their old vine Garnacha. It was so good. Got to walk through the vineyards, which by the way, muchas gracias Manolo. He was such an amazing host, and got to see the process of how the wines are made. Of course, by being there, I got inspired to create a couple dishes to pair up with those wines, folks. That's exactly what we're doing today. We're gonna make a couple different dishes, a first course and a main course, to pair up with the wines. And let me tell you, these recipes are very easy to make. They're gonna have a lot of regional flavors, and they're gonna pair perfectly with these beautiful wines. For our first dish, which you can serve either as a tapas appetizer or even as a starter, we're making some goat cheese croquettes with honey, dried cranberries, and toasted pumpkin seeds. These goat cheese croquettes have so many amazing flavors to them. They're sweet and savory, and they're super easy to put together. I'm going to be pairing these croquettes with a wine from Bodega's Grandes Vinos. This is their Monasterio de las Viñas, Garnacha Viñas Viejas. This is a beautiful young wine with so many fruit flavors to it, and it pairs perfectly with these croquettes. You'll find links to the two wines I'm using in today's recipes in the description box below. Let's begin by grabbing a log of soft goat cheese. This is 200 grams, which is about 8 ounces, and cutting it into pieces that are 1 inch apart, which is about 2.5 centimeters. Then using your hand, start shaping each piece of cheese into the form of a ball. And as you can see, when you're working with soft goat cheese, it kind of feels like Play-Doh, so it's very easy to shape. Moving on, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, which is about 34 grams, into a bowl. Cracking 2 large eggs into a second separate bowl. Season the eggs with a little sea salt. And whisk them together until they're well combined. And on a third and final bowl, I'm going to add in 1 cup of breadcrumbs. This is 119 grams. Season the breadcrumbs with sea salt and some freshly cracked black pepper. And we'll mix it together. That way those seasonings are evenly mixed into the breadcrumbs. All right, let's start creating our croquettes. Doing this one at a time. First coat the ball of goat cheese in the all-purpose flour. Then into the egg wash. And finally into the breadcrumbs. And we'll do the exact same steps a second time to give it a double coating. This is just to ensure that when you're frying your croquettes, that goat cheese doesn't ooze out. And continue to do this until all your croquettes are formed. Once all the croquettes are ready, let's start frying them up. I'm going to grab a small fry pan, heat it with a medium heat. Very important to use a medium heat when you're frying croquettes, otherwise they easily burn in the outside. And add in 1/2 cup, which is 125 milliliters of sunflower oil. After heating the oil for 5 minutes on a medium heat, it should be nice and hot. And as you can see, it's not smoky, it's not overly hot. That way when you add the croquettes in there, they don't easily burn. I'm going to start adding the croquettes into the pan, making sure they're all in a single layer. And you just want to get in there every 60 to 90 seconds and turn those croquettes. That way they're evenly fried on all sides. About 5 to 6 minutes after adding the croquettes into the pan, they should be perfectly cooked, and as you can see, they have an incredible golden fried color. I'm going to start removing them from the pan and transferring them into a dish with some paper towels. Then I'm going to add in the croquettes into a serving dish. Drizzle it with some honey, some chopped up dried cranberries, and a handful of toasted pumpkin seeds. Folks, check it out. Our goat cheese croquettes with honey, dried cranberries, and toasted pumpkin seeds is done. Such an incredible croquette, sweet and savory, beautiful flavors. Once again, we're gonna pair this with the wine from Bodegas Grandes Vinos, their Monasterio de las Viñas, Garnacha, Viñas, Viejas. This is gonna be a match made in heaven. Let's give it all a try and see how it tastes. Seriously, these croquetas look amazing. Here we go. That is so good. First things first is that outer shell, beautiful crunch to it. Then the inside, that goat cheese. Then you pair that up with the honey, the pumpkin seeds, and the dried cranberries. It's sweet and savory. It's absolutely delicious. One of the best croquetas I have ever tasted. And we're gonna pair this up with the Monasterio de las Viñas. This is the Old Vine Garnacha. Here we go. Salud. Absolutely delicious. You know, I'm not a wine connoisseur, but I know a great wine when I taste one, and that one's right there. But the most important thing is that it pairs so well with those croquettes. It's like a marriage made in heaven. Try this at home. You're not gonna believe how good it is. All right, let's move on to our main course. For our second dish, which is a main entree, we're making Spanish cod with roasted red bell peppers. This dish hails from the region of Aragon, the same place these wines are from, where it's known as bacalao ajuarriero. And let me tell you, it is such a beautiful dish, very easy to make, and it packs some serious flavors. Once again, we're going to be pairing this with a wine from Bodegas Grandes Vinos. This is one of their flagship wines, Anayón, and it's made 100% with a Cariñena grape. It is such a beautiful wine, deep concentration of flavors, and it's going to pair perfectly with this dish. Let's begin by grabbing a piece of cod. This is 14 ounces, which is about 390 grams, and patting it completely dry with paper towels. Now the cod I'm using, I bought frozen and thawed out just to make things easier, but you can totally use fresh cod here, as well as any other type of white flesh fish. Then I'm going to cut the piece of cod into pieces that are 1 inch by 1 inch, which is 2.5 centimeters by 2.5 centimeters. And season the cod with a little sea salt and some freshly cracked black pepper. For the next ingredients to prepare, I'm going to grab 3 jarred roasted red bell peppers, add them into some paper towels, and pat them completely dry. And then cut them into thin strips. And we'll finely grate 2 tomatoes. We want to end up with half a cup of grated tomato, which is about 112 grams. And reserved, I have half of an onion that I finely diced and 3 cloves of garlic that I finely minced. All right, let's start cooking our dish. I'm gonna grab a large fry pan, heat it with a medium heat, and add in 2 tablespoons, which equals 30 milliliters of extra virgin olive oil. After heating the olive oil for 2 minutes, I'm gonna add in the diced onion and the minced garlic. And start mixing everything together. I like to mix this continuously, that way the ingredients don't burn and they all evenly saute. After about 3 minutes and the onion is nice and translucent, I'm going to add in the grated tomato. And we're going to give this a quick mix and simmer it on a medium heat between 4 to 5 minutes or until that grated tomato has really thickened up. After about 5 minutes, you can see that grated tomato has really thickened up. I'm going to add in the strips of roasted red bell pepper and season everything with sea salt and freshly cracked black pepper. And we'll give this a mix, that way all these ingredients are evenly mixed together. Once everything's well mixed, I'm going to add in the pieces of cod, spread them around, that way they're evenly mixed throughout the pan, and add in a 1/4 cup of vegetable broth. This is 60 milliliters. and we'll place a lid on the pan, and we're gonna simmer this on a medium heat between 4 to 5 minutes. This is enough time for all these flavors to come together and for that cod to be perfectly cooked. After about 5 minutes, that cod should be perfectly cooked. You don't want to overcook it. I'm gonna remove the lid from the pan. And check that out. Look how beautiful this turned out. I'm gonna remove the pan from the heat. Transfer everything into a shallow bowl. And we'll sprinkle it with some freshly chopped parsley. Our second dish is done, bacalao ajuarriero, a Spanish cod with roasted peppers. So many beautiful aromas coming out of this. And once again, we're gonna pair this with the Anayón, made with the Cariñena grape. These two together, it's an explosion of goodness. Let's give it all a try and see how it tastes. This dish, I cannot wait to try. Here we go. So simple, but so good. And again, so important, you don't want to overcook that cod. It just kind of melts in your mouth. If you overcook it, it's got like a chewy texture to it. Combine that in with the roasted peppers. It's an explosion of goodness. Now I'm gonna pair this up with this wine from Grandes Vinos. This is their Anayón, made with the Cariñena grape. This is one of my favorite wines that I tasted when I was there wine tasting, and I know it's gonna pair perfectly with this dish. Here we go. Beautiful wine. This one's so different than the first one. It's just got a lot more depth of flavor to it, which is why it pairs perfectly with this cod dish. It's a symphony of flavors in there. You guys saw this. Two beautiful dishes paired up with two incredible wines. You'll find a link once again where you can get these wines in the description box below, folks. It doesn't get better than this. Regional food, regional wines. This is what it's all about. Really quick before I go, a shout out to a couple of my patrons, Billy Tester, Winston Seahall, and Darren Allen. Again, guys, thank you so much for being patrons of Spain on a Fork. You know how much I appreciate you. For the rest of you, if you're not with me on Patreon, consider becoming one. Helps with ingredients and equipment to continue making videos like this. You'll find my Patreon link in the description box below and iCard above. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button. Leave me a comment below, and if you're not subscribed, you know what to do. Smash that subscribe button. Till the next time, hasta luego.